Ladies, gents, I'm Papa Smoke, and this is another Mystic Mason video. Today, I'm here with a very, very special guest. If I've got it right, a Quyinic Luciferian called Austin Greene. Hello, Austin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for asking. Excellent. So today we're here to interview you about your spiritual practices. Um, I've heard of people who identify as Canaanites before, and I've heard of people that identify as Luciferians before. But I've never heard of anyone that like sort of combines both of them and identifies as both. Do you want to elaborate on that a little more for us?
Yes, I kind of take the morality system of Luciferianism and combine it with the teachings of the Canaanite type of teachings.
Very interesting.
Instead of
Very interesting.
Samael, it's Lucifer who's the father of Cain.
Excellent. Extremely interesting. Extremely interesting. You might find it amusing, actually. I have a an ex-girlfriend who's extremely Christian, and because I've never been able to settle in any place for any like great length of time, she always used to shout at me that I was a Canaanite. She was like, "You're never going to be able to settle. You're cursed. You're a Canaanite. That's why you can never settle." I used to think she was crazy, though. To be honest with you, I don't think I'm cursed at all. So, in my sort of practices, I do sort of like my ritual magic involves a lot of like foot track magic and root work and things like that. Is it like that in your practices, or is it more like cerebral?
It's a bit of both, actually. It's a little bit cerebral and a little bit of the physical. It's actually both in one during rituals. But we do herbalism, we do necromancy, we do demonology, we do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've worked with similar systems before, where it's more cerebral. There are things such as incense and sigils and things involved, but there's a lot of sitting around and sort of like chanting and dropping into sort of different states of mind to access different places like that. So I've done that sort of craft before. In voodoo, it's slightly different. In voodoo, we prepare like sort of root work, foot track magic, and we open doorways and get that to be empowered by the spirits. We don't necessarily sit there and have to drop into sort of like certain meditative states. We sort of deal with the spirits in a different way. We call them down to come to us, as opposed to having to open any doorways to go to them.
Mm.
So, have you got any interesting projects coming up?
I am currently working on a type of a type of business per se, and where I can help people be knowledgeable of these practices and help them obtain the gnosis that I have.
That's great. That's great. One of the things I actually like about the sort of more left-hand path sort of sorcery is there's a lot more gnosis involved. In voodoo, it's kind of a lot of F around and find out. The Lua will let you sort of make your own mistakes and be sat on the sidelines shaking their head at you afterwards. They don't necessarily give you sort of like gnosis prior to that. They just sort of help you learn the lesson after you've already been through the event. Whereas with a sort of like left-hand path, sometimes you get gnosis prior that perhaps what you're doing is not a good idea or what you're doing is a great idea. There are a few projects out there similar to the business that you've mentioned. There's a couple of apps out there, but they're more generalized to the demons of the Goetia. There's one app out there, I think it's available on iPhone, and basically you just type the demon's name in and it gives you a breakdown of them. And I think there's a children's series out there as well, but I don't think it ever got anywhere because it's a children's series about demons. But this particular satanic lady, she's written a set of children's books, like really friendly, explaining who these demons are and stuff like that, with all these pretty pictures. And it's a good work and it's a good project, but generally I don't think it would be seen by the public as saleable.
Mm.
Excuse me. Yeah, I like the idea. Teaching people about these sort of things gets rid of the stigma from it as well. One of the most frustrating things about voodoo is the stigma that Hollywood gave us with the zombies and the dogs with the pills and stuff like that. So it's really frustrating. So raising awareness about your craft out there in the public eye will remove the stigma from it, because there's a lot of stigma around around Luciferians and around Cain and Canaanites as well that could do with being removed, I guess. So, who do you follow in the occult then? Is there any sort of like famous occultist you follow that you recommend? Is there any sort of like books and things you recommend?
I recommend Liber Falcifer and The Ultra Cane. I forgot who they're by, but if you just look them up because they're the only books with those titles, you'll find them.
Yeah.
And Liber Falcifer has 3 books in the series.
Excellent. I've read a couple of is it Michael Ford? I've read a couple of Michael Ford's works on Luciferianism. I did one of his path workings, I think it's called Luciferian Magic, back in 2017. I found that quite interesting. Excuse me. I haven't done much Cain and work with Cain, to be fair. I've read about him, a little bit about him. I sort of know like the biblical story on him and stuff like that, but I've never really connected with his energy, so I don't really know what that's like. What is it like connecting with Cain's energy?
He has a really dark sense of humor, being, the Reaper and all that, the left-hand path. But other than that, he's friendly, he can be nice, he can be malevolent, but he can also be very aggressive, raw energy at first.
Yeah. Sounds like some lure. Some lure are like that. They're extremely primordial, extremely aggressive, and extremely raw, but at the same time, they're capable of huge acts of love and benevolence. So quite a lot of lure are like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know that in voodoo they have the Veves.
Yes.
Right?
We do, yeah. People get them mixed up
But
all the time.
in our practice, we use a lot. Yeah. We use a lot of sigils and staves that look very similar.
Yeah.
But people confuse them all the time for each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because they look similar.
Yeah, exactly. There's similar principles, but they work differently. I wrote a paper on this because people kept coming to me saying, "What's the sigil for this lure?" And I'm like, "They don't use sigil because sigil's the more popular thing. People don't really, unless someone's looked into voodoo, they don't really know what a veve is. They just assume it's a sigil. But they essentially have the similar core principles, certain symbology that links up to that spirit. It's just some veves themselves. They're not necessarily specific to a spirit. Some are specific to a world. Like people think that the veve that's commonly known as Bag on Sandy's is just his doorbell. That's the doorbell for the whole of the divinity of the male divinities of the dead in voodoo, all the Gide lords. So when you open that veve, you can access any of those Gide lords and any spirits that are in service to them. So you've got to be really careful when using it, as opposed to a specific signal, which could be just for a specific intention or a specific demon itself. It just goes there, not necessarily to their world, to the spirits that surround them and everything. But yeah, veves are strange things. You have to draw them in a certain way in order to activate them. Not everybody knows that. There's a certain order to draw each one in to activate it. And we never ever activate them with blood. It sounds disrespectful from a Western sorcery point of view, but with the Petrolor especially, we do something called fuming rum, which is where you spit it through your teeth onto the veve. You do that 3 times and helps it wake it up. Do you use blood in your magic?
What we use is something sometimes, but most time I use fire, blood, or water to activate it.
Fire is a very powerful one. Fire itself Especially if you're putting petitions and things in the fire. It's like an alchemical transformation that sort of puts the petition right in the spirit's hand, like a spiritual fax. So a lot of times when I do the demonic rite, I do use blood and I do use fire. With blood, though, I don't do the whole like cutting thing like I'm an emo. Screw that. I just prick my finger and just squeeze it out. I don't do the whole like emo slicing thing. In voodoo, we never offer blood. Reason being is some of the spirits used to be human, and when they were, they used to be cannibals. And if they smell that with an open wound, they will like feeding frenzy like a shark and rip you to bits. So this is why in voodoo we don't offer blood. Only time we use blood in voodoo is when we're linking a gree bag or a poppet to ourselves. And then we give it our essence, and it's part of creating the servitor spirit within the medium. So, quite interesting. So do you follow different astronomical times and stuff like that to do your practices then? Are there certain days where you do certain different kinds of work and certain times of the year where you would do something like really big?
Yes. Like, for example, Saturday is the day of Cain, and then Friday is Lilith. Lucifer is actually Sunday, coincidentally, because that's Sun's day, you know, because of the
Yeah.
sun. And then you got Halloween or Sam, as I call it, and that's the most potent time. But then there's also around the winter time is very prominent too.
Yeah, the veil tends to
For
be
all,
thin.
just all kinds.
Yeah, similar in voodoo. In voodoo, the
But
luau that was... Sorry, there's a bit of a delay. I don't mean to cut you off. There's a bit of a delay on mic. Yeah, it's...
the most particular, sorry,
Go ahead.
the most specific time I can give you for a specific type of working is Walpurgis Night or Witches Night, which is in between Halloween and April at some point. I know it's around then, but it's just mainly for blessings and curses.
Oh, great. Great. That's quite interesting. I'll have to research that. Where I live is an incredibly spiritual place. Not only are there like buildings and churches here from like the 10th century, but there's a huge like ley line running straight through it. Like the Glastonbury ley line runs straight through here. So me and my business partner, we were planning to actually go do some like Hecate ritual on camera up on that ley line there. For the world, considering voodoo itself is like mostly sacred secrets. I'm sworn to secrecy in most of it, so I can't really do most of that on camera. So me and her, we've both worked with Hecate before, so we were just gonna do a Hecate ritual up there. So I'll look for that night. We've probably passed it now because we're really close to April and really far from Halloween, so we're probably past it now. So it might be a next year thing, but we'll certainly look into that. It's interesting that you serve different spirits on different days. We do that in voodoo as well. We have different days for each spirits. I like the fact that Cain's on a Saturday. Saturday's my favourite service day. It's when I have a glass of rum with Bajon Samedi and Maman Brigitte and a nice joint. I like those spirits. Those spirits, they have the same vices as me, so I can get on with them. But at the same time, they can encourage you to overindulge. Do you ever feel yourself like sort of led astray by the spirits that you serve sometimes, and they sort of push you down a path and either like lead you to overindulge or lead you to get a bit sidetracked, and then you're not being as productive as you should be? Because the lure can do that sometimes. They can pull you down a rabbit hole, or they can just get you mad drunk.
Actually, Cain, the only vice I picked up from him was smoking cigars and cigarettes. That's it. I just offer him rum or whiskey, beer, wine, just anything that's not vodka or tequila. And usually we'll put hot chili peppers in that. And then we'll cast a circle if it light on fire with a little bit of gasoline in it, and then that's how we that's one of the ways we summon him into a circle.
That is really, really interesting. For a start, Baron Sandy loves rum and he loves chilies. He's a Saturnian entity as well, so Saturday's his day as well. So he seems like he really correlates with Cain. In fact, there's a special drink we make for Baron Sandy called Pimon, where we get 21 Scotch bonnets and we chop them up and stick them in a bottle of rum, shake it up and leave it for a couple of days. They nickname it Haitian tear gas because if you get it in your eye, it hurts. And we offer that to them. So I don't know, maybe Cain would like that. But it sounds very similar. And with the gasoline in the rum, there's another spirit, one of the most dangerous spirits in voodoo called Marinette Piadsech. She likes her rum with gasoline in it, but then she wants you to put it in your mouth and fume it. And we're like, no, you can't do that. That stuff goes in cars. You'll go blind. But yeah, it sounds really, really, really interesting. There's quite a lot of similar correlations to how the Luar threat with how you treat your spirits. I find it's better to do this though, to have service days and make offerings and build relationships with them. You're more likely to get notice from them. They're more likely to care about you, which means they're more likely to work with them more productively, as opposed to just hitting them up when you need them. I like to give them offerings and service and stuff like that. In fact, sometimes even if it's not their day, if I'm out at a market and I see something they like, I'll grab it. I call it a just because I love you present. And I find that building a bond with these spirits is quite a good thing. Now, some of the demons can be quite serious and quick to anger. Is Cain like that, or is he more chill? Because I had an experience with Belial once where I got a successful manifestation and I was drunk. And I said to him, thanks, Billy boy. And I had his sigil in a photo frame on the wall and it fell down and hit me in the head. He was like basically dropping it on me saying, don't shorten my name to Billy boy kind of thing. So is Cain like that? Is he quite serious or is he more chill?
He's more chill and relaxed, depending on what it is. Like, if you outwardly disrespect him, he might do something, but it's not going to kill you. But he is the Reaper. He comes for everyone eventually. It's just a matter of what.
When you say he's the Reaper, so is he like a psychopomp, a death deity? He's like a spirit of the crossroads, similar to like Baron Samedi and Santa Morte and spirits like that.
Yes.
Excellent. Makes sense. They're my favourite class of spirits. Hecate's a psychopomp as well, and so is Bapa Legba. In voodoo, we have a few of them. The one I have, my Mektet, so the spirits, similar to a patron, means master of the head. That's supposed to look after me and my emotional responses and stuff is called Metkarfu. He's a psychopomp, but he controls the like dark gate of the Petro Rua world, which is why I've got a bit of a fiery attitude. So sorry, what were you saying?
I noticed that in voodoo they have special necklaces. I don't know what they're actually called, but they have special necklaces, right? That certain priests, certain devotees. This is actually one of mine for Cain.
Yeah.
Now, the onyx, then the green tiger's eye, red tiger's eye, and the skull are all stones associated with him.
Yeah, excellent. That's a really good point. It's really, really important that when you dedicate things to your spirits or you have the essence of your spirits inhabiting something, that all the ingredients resonate with that spirit and are actually harmonious with that spirit. Yes, there are similar things in voodoo. In the religion, there are very similar looking necklaces, and in a similar like sort of spin-off religion to voodoo called Ifa, they wear them a lot. My sort of aspects of things as a bokor, I used to put things like that in gold necklaces. However, when I went to America to visit someone I was dating in Seattle, I sold mine in a pawn shop because she ran out of gas, basically. And it died outside the pawn shop, so I just was like, yo, I'll sell my gold. But yeah, there are necklaces that we put spirits in. We can do rosaries as well because a lot of voodoo was hidden in Catholicism in the sort of like slave trade times. A lot of that were hidden in Catholicism, so we can use rosaries and stuff. Like the crucifix itself, we can use to represent Metcalfu, because Metcalfu's the Lua that absolves sins, and that's what the crucifix is supposed to be seen as. This is why things such as karma and universal comeback don't affect Vaudouisant, because an initiated Vaudouisant is protected by Metcalfu at the crossroads. We just have to answer for that shit when we die. Do you have such things in your practices, like, for example, where certain spirits protect you from like universal backlash and karma, but there is like a lesson you have to learn eventually from it?
I feel like Cain, it's a similar thing, except he prolongs his followers' lives until they're needed on the other side, basically. He'll prolong your life till he absolutely needs you.
It's interesting you say that. I've encountered this with the Lua several times. I've been through a lot of shit, and I tried to do something stupid a few times before, and the Lua never allow it. The Lua never allow it. Anytime I have some sort of mental breakdown and try and hurt myself, like I took enough of this opiate called dihydrocodone, which is similar to what you call Oxycontin. I took enough of that to kill a horse, yeah, and all I did was throw up. The Lua, they just won't allow it. They're like, hey, you're not going nowhere, mate. You still got work to do down here. So we do have spirits that do that. They sort of prolong your life, even if you're basically trying to take it. They'll be like, nope, it's not happening. Not happening. You still got stuff to do. It can be quite frustrating sometimes, but then again, it's good to know that they've got you back and that you've still got a purpose, I guess. So, what's the most profound bit of gnosis you've got from Cain or Lucifer so far? What's the most like jaw-dropping, profound, like what the fuck moment that has ever happened?
I'd say it's when I found out what the mark of Cain actually was. It wasn't a marking. It wasn't a scar, a tattoo, or anything like that. It was actually, you know how in the Bible that they say that he has the mark of Cain, right?
Yeah.
And they say that the Bible was in Africa when this happened, like the Garden of Eden and all that.
Yeah.
Like Nigeria or somewhere like that. Well, it makes sense then for Adam and Eve to be African, basically.
Yeah.
But Cain, his mark was white skin, and that would make it very hard for him to live in Africa because it would prevent him, from
It burn. Yeah. I get
it
it,
burn and all that. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God.
That's mad. If you think about it, though, it does sort of play along with the biblical story of him not being able to settle because he's always going to be on the move looking for shade, isn't he? So, fucking hell. So, does that mean that everybody who's white's a Canaanite then?
It really depends on a lot of factors if you accept it about yourself. If you accept that part of yourself, then you are. If you don't, you're not. It's really that simple.
Yeah. In my case, like I said, I had a heavily Christian ex-girlfriend. She literally, I think I got with her because she basically lost faith in her religion and she was like rebelling against her God. So she found some badass voodoo magician and thought I'll get with him. And she was like, "You're a Canaanite, you. That's why you can never settle." I didn't even know what one was. I had to look it up because I was just trained in voodoo mainly. So I had to look it up. And I was like, "What's she on about?" Chatting all this biblical stuff to me. But well, yeah, I've never looked in the mirror and gone, I'm a Canaanite, but I've had ex-girlfriends that have like heavily churchgoers yell that at me before and stuff like that. And I've had a fair few people accuse me of being demonic, although I do have a very demonic temper due to my bipolar, although I'm not demonic. But I've been told I'm possessed and all sorts of stuff. But apparently when you're in a bipolar meltdown, your eyes change, so it's not really possessed. And I've been fully possessed. You don't remember anything when you've been fully possessed. And I remember parts of some of my meltdowns, so I can't have been possessed. But yeah, I'm not sure whether I am a Canaanite or not, but my heavily Christian ex-girlfriend is. And I'm a voodoo sort of book, the dark sorcerer in the world of voodoo. So in voodoo, we have two paths. We have Guinea, the religion, the path of light. And we have Sampuel, which is path I walk, the Bokor's path, the path of power and money. Is it similar in what your practices are? Do you have two different paths, or do you just walk straight down the middle? Or
There's one path in the middle, and we call it the crooked path because it's not a straight line like most right-hand path religions. It's crooked. It's going to twist, turn, go upside down. Even it's going to go everywhere but straight.
Yeah, that sounds like Sampuel as well. That sounds like Sampuel. On Sampuel, there are quite a lot of tests and stuff like that. And we encounter a lot of dark spirits, like Marinette Pielsesh herself. She's not served in Guinea. In fact, she's seen as a no spirit in Guinea. Whereas on Sampuel, she's seen as essential to like progress moving forward as a Bokor. She's very fiery spirit. It's strange. I find spirits of fire once you work with them, even if you're nowhere near the fire that you've made, you end up sweating. Especially if you channel them, you end up sweating like it's like you're out in that Sahara desert. Have you found that when you work with really intense fiery spirits that you just end up like sweating? I mean like really bad, so it's almost going in your eyes and blinding you type.
Yeah, I found that too. But on the polar opposite that is Kane, who makes you feel like you're freezing cold in the tundra.
Yeah, I've encountered spirits that do that before as well. Those ones, they always, because I've got this thing about feeling cold. I don't like feeling cold, so all the hair stand up at the back of my neck, and I'm like, so yeah, but I have encountered that before, especially working with the dead. A lot of the dead spirits are quite cold, especially working with the dead. Although that being said, the deities of the dead are not that cold. It's just the actual spirits of the dead themselves. There's a lot of ancient graveyards around here that we like to go and investigate and stuff like that. Some of them have guardian spirits. One of them we did a paranormal investigation on, and we've got an EVP of it telling me it's going to smack me up the side of the head. Literally, the thing threatened me, you know. Have you ever had any crazy experiences like that, whether in ritual or not, where spirits have just like come out with some crap and started threatening you or talking some trash to you?
I've had that experience before. And every single time, then they are like, oh shit, because Kane follows me everywhere. He's literally inside me 24/7. He's like, I'm like his robe made of flesh, and my bones are his bones. So as soon as they say that, he comes out, they're like, oh shit, we fucked up.
Yeah,
You know
I've got a number of spiritual protections around me as well. That's why it never happens. That's an interesting concept that you mentioned there. In voodoo, we call that perfect possession. So it's basically sharing your body with a deity or entity, allowing it to live inside you and possess you perfectly. However, in voodoo, it can get you into trouble because sometimes it just takes over, and you don't remember what it's done. So it takes over and just does what it wants. And then you got some explaining to do in the morning when there's like 7 bottles of rum around and like 3 girls' phone numbers and all sorts of stupid shit. And you're like, I don't even remember anything. I did nothing. It wasn't me. Like, yes, it was. And I'm like, wasn't me. I don't remember. You're like being possessed and stuff. This is why I don't do perfect possession. I like to stay in control. They have possessed me a few times before. Usually to save my life, to be fair. There's been 2 occasions out of the 3 I think they've possessed me where they had to do it to save my life because I was doing stupid shit, and one in ritual, and being possessed in the voodoo way. I don't know if it's the same in how you experienced it. Probably not now you're perfectly possessed, but at first, when they start to get inside you, start to mount you, you convulse and everything. It's mental. It's like being really, really ill, and it can be quite traumatic. I find that a bit mad, but. Yeah, it's nuts. But I haven't done perfect possession because I like to stay in control. And in voodoo, they like to take over. So, so do you have any sort of like pacts or contracts with Kane and Lucifer and that?
Yes, I do. I made a pact with Kane, a really long time ago when I was 13 years old for him to actually help like my family, help protect my family from illness and disease.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's admirable. Most people, when I ask them that question, they're like, "Yeah, I got this money back, and I got this and that and that." But that's admirable. That as a practice of protection, that's quite good. In voodoo, we call those practice of protection gads, and you can do gads against different things like disease or in here because poisoning's common, poisonings and stuff like that. I've got a couple, but they're mainly financially motivated to boost my business. But then again, I only learned about what I learned as an adult. So, yeah, that's quite interesting. Right. We'll wrap it up here. It's been really good having you on the show. It's been really interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Yeah. And yeah, it's been really interesting. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Take care, Austin. Have a good one.
You too. Have a great day.
You too.